They stole her seat. They stole her dignity. A black mother was forced to stand while a white passenger sat where she rightfully belonged, and the airline defended him. In that moment, it wasn't a mistake, it wasn't confusion, it was racism, naked and undeniable. But what they didn't know was that her son wasn't just any man. He was a CEO with the power to turn one act of hate into the downfall of an entire airline. He wasn't just successful, he was one of the most powerful media executives in the country. Years of hard work had built him a reputation for exposing corruption, giving a voice to the unheard, and holding the powerful accountable. But beneath the boardrooms and headlines, he was simply a son, a man who cherished traveling with his elderly mother, making sure she experienced the dignity she deserved. That morning, their trip seemed ordinary. First-class tickets, smooth check-in, smiles exchanged as he guided his mother through the airport. There was a quiet sense of pride in his chest, knowing he could now give her what she had long been denied in life: respect. For her, that first-class seat was not just a chair in the sky, it was recognition of a lifetime of sacrifice. Every late night working 2 jobs, every moment of going without so he could have more, every prayer whispered in silence for his future. This flight was supposed to be a small reward, but as they stepped onto the plane, something felt off. The air carried a heaviness, an unease that didn't belong in first class. The mother's eyes searched for her seat, row number printed neatly on the boarding pass. Yet when they reached it, the unthinkable unfolded. A white passenger was already sitting there, legs stretched, head leaned back. His belongings scattered on the tray table as though the space belonged to him all along. The CEO, calm and polite, showed the passes. The evidence was undeniable. But instead of standing, the man smirked. His refusal wasn't just casual arrogance, it was deliberate. A declaration that rules didn't apply to him. Flight attendants arrived, and for a brief moment, the CEO thought order would be restored. But what followed twisted the knife deeper. Instead of enforcing fairness, the attendants sided with the intruder. They brushed off the CEO's words, dismissed the tickets in his hand, and told his mother she would need to wait. Her hands clutched her small bag. Her back straightened as though holding herself together through sheer will. She stood there, stripped of comfort and dignity, while the man who stole her seat leaned back even further, emboldened by the airline's protection. Other passengers saw it. Their eyes flickered toward the scene, but just as quickly turned away. No one spoke. No one intervened. Silence filled the cabin, heavy and suffocating. The CEO's jaw tightened, but his voice never rose. Anger burned inside him, but he held it down like a stone in water. He had been here before, not on this plane, not in this exact way, but in countless other forms. Dignity stripped, respect withheld. His mother had endured it her entire life. But watching it happen again, in public, when all he wanted was to honor her, cut deeper than any betrayal he had faced in boardrooms or negotiations. And while the airline believed they had silenced him, he was recording. Quietly, discreetly, his phone captured every word, every dismissive laugh, every second of humiliation. Minutes dragged like hours. His mother eventually accepted another seat offered elsewhere in the cabin, her face calm but her eyes shadowed with quiet pain. She carried herself with grace, but he could see the weight pressing on her. The humiliation wasn't just about a seat. It was about what that seat symbolized: belonging, respect, equality. The flight attendants moved on with forced cheer. The white passenger remained comfortable, smirking in quiet victory. And the CEO? He leaned back, silent, expression unreadable. No one around him could guess the storm building behind his calm eyes. What no one realized was that his silence was strategy. Every insult, every act of complicity, every look of indifference, all of it was evidence. All of it was fuel. He wasn't just enduring the humiliation. He was preparing to unleash it. As the plane lifted into the air, the airline thought the ordeal was over. But for the CEO, it had only begun. The wheels touched down, but the sting of humiliation remained. His mother, the woman who had given everything for him, had been forced to stand like she didn't belong. The white passenger disembarked with smug satisfaction, attendants smiling as if nothing had happened. But the CEO knew different. He carried evidence, hours of footage, clear and damning. And once the doors opened, his silence ended. Exposure began. Within minutes of stepping into the terminal, he pressed a button. His team, trained for moments like this, sprang into action. The recording spread through his media empire, television broadcasts, online platforms, newspapers, social feeds. Everywhere at once, the world was watching. The reaction was instant. Outrage flooded social media. Millions of views in hours, anger boiling over in comments and hashtags. Sponsors scrambled to distance themselves. Protesters rallied outside terminals. In boardrooms across the country, the airline's name became toxic. Executives panicked. Stock prices plummeted overnight. Investors abandoned ship. Regulators launched probes, digging into every dark corner of the company's history. Employees whispered about years of discrimination and cover-ups. Now, everything was spilling into daylight. What began as one stolen seat had become a storm strong enough to bring down an empire. And it all started because they believed one mother didn't matter. The CEO had held his silence through the humiliation. But now his voice was everywhere, and it was louder than they could ever hope to contain. The fallout was swift, and it was brutal. Within weeks, the airline that once laughed in the face of dignity was collapsing under its own arrogance. Headlines blared with updates. Stock in freefall, leadership resignations, lawsuits stacking higher by the day. For the CEO, it was never about revenge. It was about justice. It was about showing the world that silence can be powerful, but truth is louder. His mother, once humiliated before strangers, now stood as a face of resilience, seen by millions. No longer invisible, no longer ignored, but the story was bigger than one airline. Bigger than one man or even his mother. It was about every time someone has been told they don't belong, every moment when dignity was stolen, every injustice that was brushed aside as if it didn't matter. This time, the world was watching. This time, silence was broken, but the question remains, how many more mothers will be forced to stand? How many more lives will be scarred by racism before change finally takes flight?